second wild card, the Cardinals and the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Phillies are all a half a game out of that second wild card. Chappie and Charlie. I agree, Charlie. I think the Dodger bullpen is going to get some help. I think it's Vasquez. There are other options. I just think he's the best option. But do you think that maybe the White Sox trade with the Dodgers? Colomé. That's an option, right? I mean, I think the White Sox deal the guy. And then Brandon Morrow coming back to the Cubs. The thing I'm concerned about there, both Phil and Charlie, with Brandon Morrow is this. With Brandon Morrow, he's not pitched in so long. And I assume the Cubs would ease him back in, but they're going to want him to pitch in high leverage situations fairly soon. Here we are, it's almost August. And these games are huge. So just take a look at, keep looking out. I think the Dodgers make that move. These wild card teams, they also, St. Louis, Arizona, Philadelphia. The Giants are only 2.5 out in the wild card. Trying to find trade partners for them is like looking for a needle in the haystack. So, a lot of action going to take place, and it's going to happen sooner than later. What I'd like to do is take a look now for just a few moments at some players down on the farm, see how it's going. And Gavin Lux last night. Gavin Lux, their number 2 prospect, went 2 for 5 with 2 homers, 5 RBIs for AAA Oklahoma City. He is so hot right now. He's a 2016 first-round pick out of Vanderbilt, hit a 2-run homer in the second and fourth innings, and has continued. What I think's been ridiculous has been offensively here lately. He has reached base in 27 straight games. He's got a 15-game hit streak, homered in 4 straight. He's hitting .500 through his first 14 games with Oklahoma City. Since being promoted, the 21-year-old has hit .313 through 64 games with AA and hit .324 over 116 games a season ago. Lux can hit. Is there any chance the Dodgers bring him up late in the season? This year? Just thinking. I mean, the bad hits. What if an injury? Seager seems to be hurt all the time. And when he plays, he's about the time he was playing pretty well, something happens and it goes south. But I don't know. Interesting. Bo Bichette for Toronto. Their number 1 prospect, number 8 prospect in all of baseball. Last night for AAA Buffalo, he goes 2 for 4 with 2 homers, 3 RBIs. That's 3 straight multi-hit performances for Bichette. He extends his hitting streak to 5 games. It was the first 2-homer game of his career last night. Now, he missed 6 weeks with a broken hand. He returned in mid-June, and he's been raking ever since he came back. He's a 2016 second-rounder, good defender, and don't you just know when Freddie Galvis gets traded here at the trade deadline, it's going to be the Bo Bichette show in Toronto, added to those rookies they already have. You're going to have what a young infield with Guerrero, Biggio, Bichette. Sounds like a team from the 2000s to me, right? Their dads all were all-stars, and these guys, well, they can be too, okay? Other prospects last night doing well in the minors that I think, this is for dynasty purposes. Here you go. How about Sheldon Neuse for the A's at AAA? 2 for 3 last night. He put the Aviators on the board with an RBI double in the first, later picked up another hit. Neuse is hitting .317, has hits in 10 of his last 11 games. And whether you watched yesterday or not, Matt Chapman left the game early yesterday for Oakland. Had fouled 2 balls off his foot. It looks like it's just a bruise, guys. Nothing long term. But Sheldon Neuse, just keep your eye on him. He's at AAA and he's hitting. And if the A's needed some infield help, now they've got Cana. And I was hearing earlier this morning how, we have these guys on our team and they hit a couple of homers and they're on our bench in fantasy. I've been there, done that a lot. But if Chapman misses a few games, if it's just a few games, they're not going to call this kid up. No way. But if it were to be long term, then you got to look at what do you do. So we'll see. Other prospects last night. Here's a guy I watched play in the Carolina League, Leody Taveras. He's the Texas Rangers' number 6 prospect, recently promoted to Double-A. He's 21 years old. He went 2 for 4 last night with a homer and had 4 RBIs. He is 20 years old. I said 21. He's 20 years old. He has a little bit of power, great speed, great contact. He's a switch hitter, the kind of player Texas really loves to have. And when he does get up to the majors in that ballpark, particularly this time of year, look out. Nationals, Carter Kieboom, their number 1 prospect. He was a smash, and then he was mashed. And now he's a smash again at Triple-A. 3 for 5 last night for Triple-A Fresno. He's been hitting Triple-A pitching all year. His average, .313. He's 21 years old. His first major league hit was a game-tying homer. But after that, not much. But he continues to dominate Triple-A. And if Washington were to have a trade partner, Charlie, there you go, Kieboom to the Mets for Wheeler. That makes sense. Good point. And I wonder how much is made of trading in your division. A lot of teams say they won't do that, but if it benefited both teams, why wouldn't teams do that? And I know there's the risk factor, but if the Mets thought Kieboom was a player that would help them, Charlie, and Wheeler was a player that could help Washington. Of course, the problem is Wheeler's hurt, shoulder problems. You don't know what that is. But Kieboom could be a trade piece. Washington's a player. I told you they're leading the wild card this morning. Would they trade their number 1 prospect? I guess the answer is depend on what they could get in return. The Yankees have said no prospect's untouchable. And I think the major league teams now are looking at it. If we can win this year, look at the Cubs. When the Cubs win 3 years ago, they trade away a lot of pieces. They traded away Eloy Jimenez. They traded away Gleyber Torres, who are now stars in their own right or stars in the making. But they did it because they thought, and they were thinking correctly, we can win the World Series this year. And they did. Chapman, Quintana. Now, Quintana has not panned out long term, and Chapman's no longer with them. But for that 1 year, they got that World Series. And you think, well, you can win a World Series. Take the Dodgers. Look at the Dodgers. The last 2 or 3 years, incredible. Over the last 20 years, they've made the playoffs numerous times. But how old were you when the Dodgers last won the World Series? It was 1988. 1988. The Dodgers won the most series in the 80s, 2, but they've not won any since. I'm just saying, when you're in that position, the Yankees have gone 10 years and not won a World Series. The last one they won was 2009. And that's why I think when you get to the point we're in this, we can win it this year. I think if you're one of those teams, like the Dodgers, like the Yankees, you go all out and you win that World Series. Because it could be 10, 20, in the Dodgers' case, 31 years before you might have a chance to win it again if you don't make that move now. Are the Nationals in that mode? We'll find out. We got 13 days, right? A few other prospects. Dylan Carlson, the number 2 Cardinals pick. And these are all players who could be trade chips. They could be players to come up. They could be dynasty players in the future. I'm trying to give you last night top performers for any of those purposes. Dylan Carlson, the number 2 Cardinals prospect, 3 for 4 last night with 2 homers and 2 RBIs for Double-A Springfield. He was a 2016 first-round pick. He's putting together a breakout season in Double-A. He's 20 years old. It was his first 2-homer game of his career. He went deep in the first and in the fifth innings. He's hitting for power. His 16 homers are a career high, but he's also hitting for average. He's hitting .291 this year, and that is well above 40 points higher than his previous high of .251 set back in 2015. So, Dylan Carlson, the Cardinals, I've told you, they're players. Unholy says the White Sox should rent out Abreu. Abreu's killing it this year. And these kind of prospects, these kind of veterans like an Abreu, I mean, look at the standings, guys. The teams that are out of it are your trade partners. White Sox, Abreu, Colome. They're not going to trade their young kids. Seattle, Malik Smith, maybe. You know, the Yankees pick up Gore yesterday. I got a feeling they remember the year that the Red Sox pick up the now current Dodger manager Dave Roberts, and he's nothing more than a pinch runner, but he propels the Red Sox to the 2004 World Series. If he doesn't steal bases against the Yankees, they may not win that playoff. Malik Smith could be that kind of player. Toronto, Kansas City, they got trade chips. They just traded Gore. They're in sell mode. If there's someone there that you want. I would want Merrifield, but he's under contract. Yeah, Gore and Roberts. I mean, that kind of specialty player. And that's where I think these trades may go. A piece here, a piece there. Detroit, Boyd's on the market. The Orioles really have nothing but Mancini, but would they trade Mancini? Sure, they trade Mancini. Because before the Orioles are going to get back to prominence, Mancini's not going to be. And in the National League, you've only got the Mets and the Reds, as I see it, and Miami. Pittsburgh, maybe. I think Pittsburgh's falling out. So you got 4 teams there right now. Colorado's not going to be far away. Added to the 6th in the National League. So you've got about 10 teams that can be trade partners. And these prospects or these veterans on these teams that are going nowhere quick, trade. Abreu. I forgot who mentioned that, but I want to give kudos out to that one. I'm going back up in the chat room for a moment if I can. I'm not always good at this, guys. Let's see. Whoever mentioned trading Abreu. Yeah, Unholy Toledo did that about 3 or 4 minutes ago. I agree, Unholy. And the White Sox have first base prospects they can then pull up. I'll tell you, kid, I'm just going to take a little break here and talk about this kid for a minute. He's not in my list from last night. But Luis Robert for the White Sox at AAA Charlotte has been nothing but a man on fire all season. And I think that Robert gets a call up too. I think the White Sox are going to bring these kids up in September, and we're going to get a glimpse at what is yet to come next year. Now, Lenny said it. I got to give the legend the kudos here. He thinks the White Sox win the division next year, and I would not be surprised. Okay, Dylan Cease is struggling a little bit this year, but Dylan Cease is going to be an ace next year for the White Sox. Kopech is going to be back next year, full strength for the White Sox, barring some new injury. Their offense is just going to get better. Nick Madrigal is going to play second base, a great contact, speed at the top of the order, batting average. He was on the Collegiate World Series winner last year. He's moved up the ranks. He's going to play second base. That's why they moved their current third baseman to third, so to pave the way for Madrigal to come in. Gavin Sheets is a first baseman, a great prospect. There are more. There are more. Luis Robert can be better than Eloy Jimenez. I think he's got more potential. So the White Sox, in trading Abreu, if they could load up on another pitcher with a contender, So then the question is, who needs a first baseman? Who in the